The Associated Press has a wild story here about an inmate who is practically begging for the firing squad. So this guy's getting the death penalty, and he's like, I prefer that. So they explain, a Virginia inmate asked a federal court Wednesday to block the state's plans to execute him next month with lethal injection drugs from a secret compounding pharmacy, suggesting even a firing squad would be more humane. Attorneys for Ricky Gray said in a federal complaint that there is a serious risk that Virginia will chemically torture the man to death when it uses compounded drugs for his execution scheduled for January 18th. Although firing squads aren't permitted under Virginia law, his attorneys argue even that method would be a more humane alternative. It is both more humane, quicker, more effective, and would frankly be completely feasible in Virginia. So, how crazy is this, man? I mean, we've covered a bunch of stories now that basically explain how and describe how, because of the new chemicals they're using for the lethal injection, they're torturing people to death. So the old chemical cocktail, they stopped producing because it was a European company that produced it, and they're like, we don't kill anybody here. We don't have the death penalty here. So, yeah, we're not going to make it and then send it to the U.S. We don't want to be a part of this anymore. So they backed out of it, and then the U.S. is like, well, I mean, we're not going to stop killing people, so let's come up with a new lethal injection formula. And they're like testing shit out. Like, I don't know, mix this and this and that. This should be good enough. And then what happened? There was a case of somebody who they tried to kill, they tried to give the lethal injection to. He was like, for 20 minutes. They called off the election, I was going to say. They called off the execution after they had already administered the drugs. And then he died like 25 minutes later, but that was 25 minutes of sheer torture and pain and probably felt like his body was burning alive. So the sedative they give him doesn't work as well. The paralytic masks any actual pain. Like, they can't tell you they're in pain, so all you hear is like, because they're paralyzed. And then the final drug kills them. Eventually, maybe, I don't know if they even have the dose right on the last one. So it's a shit show, man. It's as bad as it gets. And the Supreme Court failed to act to stop it multiple times. And we keep getting stories like this. The new chemical's not working. It's certainly not working as good as it should. You had one guy who took super long, another person foamed at the mouth, and we're still killing people like that. That is the textbook definition of violating the Eighth Amendment to the U.S. Constitution. The Eighth Amendment protects from cruel and unusual punishment. They're doing cruel and unusual punishment. Of course, they're torturing somebody before they kill them. Duh. I would argue the death penalty itself is cruel and unusual punishment. But, so we're at the point where somebody's begging to get shot in the face in the U.S. How sad is that, man? We got to get our shit together. I'd get rid of the death penalty completely because I don't want to torture people, but more importantly, we get the wrong people 4% of the time when we have the death penalty. So I'd get rid of that completely. But look, in the meantime, before you get rid of it, or if you're not going to get rid of it or whatever, I would have the firing squad. If I was going to get the death penalty and I had to pick, I'm picking the firing squad. Bitch, give me 2 to the heart, and 2 to the brain. Give me it. That's what I want. And then I know I'm going to be out so quick. So I'd rather go for that. But the thing is, it makes us feel better to do the lethal injection. Because it looks like, at least with the old formula, it looked like, they're going peacefully, so we're not monsters. Well, when you're torturing them and they're doing that and shit, maybe you actually would even feel better with the firing squad. So I agree with this guy. By the way, I don't think I have any sympathy for the guy. I mean, he murdered 4 people, including kids, little kids. So I don't like the guy. I'm not advocating for the guy. I'm just saying if you're going to kill him, if you're going to give him the death penalty, yeah, do it with the firing squad and don't do it with the lethal injection, because there is an extra level of barbarism and savagery if you do it basically knowing that we're going to torture him.